Okay guys, welcome to this video, and in this video we're going to be learning about auto layout. As you already know, auto layout is a feature in Figma that allows our design to fit in once the screen expands or fit in once the screen collapses. Alright, in that way it saves us from creating multiple screens for uh, adjusting our design for multiple screens as we design across different screens. So we are quickly going to go on to auto layout and see how to add auto layout. So we are going to go on to here and bring up a simple, or start with a simple button text. So I'm going to bring that here and say button. So when we add our button, if you're using the Windows, the best way to add auto layout is to use Shift A, and that automatically adds box across your text or whatever you add auto layout. So look at an auto layout as a box around your text or around your content that allows you to control the conditions of your content. So we have added auto layout, and we can easily come onto this place, and because there is a field we can add, because there is a box, we can easily add a field we can easily add a field to that box, and look at this box as a container that now contains our text here. So that is the best way to look at auto layout. The best way to look at auto layout is looking at auto layout as a box, right? And then there is a content inside the box, and then there is a content inside the box, and then this is a box and this is another box. Because this box is inside this box, we call this box that is outside the parent of the container, the parent of this box that is inside. I'll call this box inside the child of this box that is outside. So in this case, what is inside here is our text. So we are going to call our text the child. I'm going to call this one here, the container, as the parent. So if you add auto layout to your content, let's just get rid of this one. If you add auto layout to your content, automatically you will see that with this icon here by the left hand side. So we have added auto layout, and we want to see how our content is going to act with auto layout. So what do we do first? Let's look at the properties of auto layout. I'm going to click on this here and click on the main parent, which is the container. And if I come to this right hand side, I see that other features has been added. We see we have the alignment, we have the resizing, and we have gaps around. If I come to this, the first one, let's talk about the first thing. The first thing here, which is flow, this tells us, I think we should talk about the resizing first. Now for the resizing, if you click on the parent and you come to this resizing property, you see there are two main properties, which is the fixed width and the hug content. So in this case, the content is the stuff inside, which is the child. And there is the add minimum width and add maximum width, which we'll come on to later. And if you click on what is inside, which is the text or the child content, and you see there is an additional one content, which is the fill container, which allows it to fill its parent with. Remember I told you there is a container, and in that container there's like a padding, which are those properties. As I hover across, which are those things you see around. These are the padding. So if I click on the child, I said there are three additional one content, which made it three. There was a fill container. Let's go about each of these properties one by one. So for the first one is the fixed width. Now this is the width of our content. If we set it to fixed width, it means that it will not increase past what we have already. So let's come here and see automatically when you set an auto layout, it saves as fixed width. It starts as fixed width. So that is what it means. So I'm going to click on my text now, and then I try to add stuff inside. You notice that the parent width is fixed and it doesn't increase. And then if I change that from fixed width to probably, if I change the parent, let's click on the parent and not the child. So we are talking about the parent first. If I change that from fixed width, I put it on org content. What the org content does is that it just the way you hug a child, just the way a parent will hug the child, or a mother will hug its child, it means doesn't want the child to go far away from it. So in that way, as the child keep increasing, the parent has to expand itself to contain the child as much as possible. And that is why if we keep adding, the parents keep increasing. The parents keep increasing, trying to contain the child as much as possible. That is what the org content does, right? That is what the org content does. And then that is that for the parents. Let's come to the child. For the child, there are different properties for the child. Automatically, when you add auto layout, it's set to org content. It's set to org content. Let's click on the child. Come here. It's set to hug, right? Now, in this hug, it means that it will take the minimum space possible. That is for the child. For the child, it takes the minimum space possible. It doesn't want to expand. So that is why if I click on this and I keep text writing and writing, it keeps taking up, it doesn't expand beyond by width. Now let's see another property. If I come on to this and I click on fill container, that means it will keep increasing if the parent container increase. Let's put that to fill container. Let's see, fill container. And if we set this inside the child to fill container, automatically the parent will turn to fixed width, because the child is trying to fill every possible chance space available. So if you start adding, what is it doing? It's filling other space down but not across, because we have set the child, the parent, to actually, because we have set the child to fill container. In that way, it's trying to fill the container without increasing the width. I hope this passes the message. So the next property is checking which is the fixed width. If we go, let's click on the parent and we come here and we set it to fixed width. Now the fixed width works like the org container. If we try that, I will see. What does it do? It fills the container. That means the width will not increase again, because the parent is already set to fixed. And then this child here keeps increasing and increasing, but will not increase its width because we've set it to fixed. But what happens if the content we want to add, probably we want it to keep growing as we add it? What do? We set the parent to hug. Remember, I say hug and fixed are almost the same. So we set the parent to hug, the child to hug, and we also set the parent to hug. And what that does is that as we add our content, it keeps growing. But if in a case we don't want the parent to keep growing by width, we want it to keep growing by height, you can come here and change that to fill container, and automatically the parent is set to fixed. So once we do anything, you notice it's no longer increasing. So this is how auto layout works, even for larger content. So if we want to try for a large content, let's say we want to duplicate this, Ctrl D to duplicate, right? We are not duplicating the text inside, we actually duplicated this and this. Alright, so if I have this here and then let me add another duplicate, alright, and we want to make this 3 content into an auto layout. Remember, you can have an auto layout inside another auto layout inside another auto layout, and that is where we have the nested auto layout. So I'm going to have this shift, click on both of them together by holding the shift key, and shift A to add auto layout. Adding auto layout automatically puts them around another container. So if you look at this auto layout right now that we added, we have actually, in the sense of auto layout, it means we have added another container inside all of the containers we were calling parent containers before. So if we click on any of the container that we're calling parent before, they have become a child now. So we can click on them and find the fill container. And we can also click on each of them and find the fill container. That means they are inside another container. So click on this frame here, which is the frame 4. You can name that. No need. Okay, so if we click on this, we can find that it's a new frame. How do we know? Come down here, add a field color, and you notice that it is filled. If I change the color, you notice that it's a different color. That means there is another container behind. But one may ask, why doesn't the container expand outside these parent boxes? Simple. The answer is that there is no padding set for the parent container. So if I come onto this padding here and I say, let's say 32, I like to have enough space, 30, 24. Alright, vertical and horizontal padding has been added, and that shows that this guy here is a container that is housing what we used to call parent container before, or parent frame. So if I go ahead to remove that color, we no longer find that. So why are these contents distant away from themselves? For sure, you got that right. There is gap. And how do we identify that gap? Just click on the parent frame, the new parent frame, and come onto this place. You find the gap. So I can change that gap to whatever I want. I may say 24 instead of what it used to be, 24. And that reduces the gap. And as the gap keeps reducing, let's make it 0, and you see that everything is filled. Everything is filled. So I'd like to add a gap of 24 and see how they are distant a bit from each other. Now in auto layout, you may want to say, okay, let's see how this goes across. Look at the parent frame, it doesn't do anything. If we are to add, this is where responsiveness comes into for auto layout. So we can click on the parent frame and try to add a color so that we can appreciate what we are doing. Let's add this color, nothing fancy, just something around here. Alright, now we click on each of, let's see what responsiveness is all about. This right now is not responding. That means we are not really working with auto layout for responsiveness. So what do we do to make this respond? Remember, we said the hub is to let the parent hold its child as close as possible. So I'm going to click on this parent, and I'm going to come on to this place and set it to make sure, okay, it is set to hug. And another way to fix that is to come on to each of this parent, each of this child, sorry. For all your child, it's normal to set them, or as usual, or it is usual to set them to be fill. So you come to this resizing and come to this place and make it fill container. Automatically, what happens? The parents change to fixed width. So I'm going to text that, and we see that this is actually trying to respond a bit, but there is more to do. So I'm just going to come to this text. Notice it's not properly set, so I'll just scroll down and center align that, and do so for each and every one of these guys here and center align them. Now I would want my box that if at this point for responsiveness my button is not making sense at this point, this is where the minimum and maximum width comes into play. So at the point where my text is beginning to collapse like this, I would actually want it to break down instead of collapse or wrap. How do we do that? I'll come to each of these text here, and then set a minimum width for them. So let's come to, first of all, I'd like to see, I'll click on the main frame and see at what point did it start distorting or not making sense. I think at this point. Alright, so I'll come to each of them, hold my shift key, click on each and every one of them. Then I'll go to my auto layout and add a minimum width. So I would like to set a minimum width of, let's say, 59, because I can see 59 here already as the current width. So I'll set that to 59. And you can see the red line that I'm showing that yes, at this point is 59. If I am to set it to 40, notice the red line changes. You can see the red line comes here. That is where 40 is, but for now I'm changing it to 59. So what that means for minimum width is that if my content is shrinking and it gets to this minimum width, it should not respond to autolay. It should not respond anymore. It should stop there. So let's try to see how that works. Look at this point, it no longer responds as opposed to before. It no longer responds. So but this our parent frame is still responding. What do? We set a minimum width for the parent as well. Click on the parent, which is the outside box, go to this and go to the add minimum width. As you can see, the current width is 289. You can set our minimum width because this is the point where it no longer starts making sense. We'll make it 289, right? And then we enter. So you can see from the red line, it shows that this width is actually the width of 289. So if I come to my content and then I try to see how that plays out, let's click on the parent and drag and then collapse. Do you notice that it no longer expands again as opposed to before where it shrinks and our design doesn't make any sense? So at this point, what we want our design to do, not like we want our design not to respond anymore, we want our design to actually fall down. But I'm going to remove the minimum width for this parent. I might just remove the minimum width for this parent and click on the parent and go on to wrap content. That means our content inside is going to wrap. So I can still click on each of the content inside and make everything to wrap as well. So if we expand this, it keeps expanding until it gets to the minimum width. Instead of it to do what? To stop responding, it breaks, it wraps until it gets to that minimum width. And at this point, we see our design is actually making sense, instead of the initial one where it no longer makes sense. So if our design gets to this point, we no longer want our parent frame to keep shrinking. We want it to stop, which is at this point. So we can go on to add a minimum width for this parent frame now. So go on to the parent frame, go on to add minimum width, and then we can set that to the parent width, to the current width, which is 123. 123. From the red line, it shows that is what it is. So we're going to click on it and then try what we did and see. And once you get to the minimum width, nothing works again. Nothing works again. So this is how you want your design to play out for when designing. So I don't want to overwhelm you with so much information at this point, but before we end this, let me add that we can add the maximum width. Probably we say when it gets to this point, it should no longer expand. That is where we'll come in here and add a maximum width. For where there is a minimum width, we should have a maximum width. So our maximum width for this may be 555 from here. 555 set. So it is showing our minimum and maximum width already. So at this point, if I try to expand, it no longer expands. If I try to shrink, no longer shrink. So this way our design will make sense. So this you can apply to all designs that you want to do. So I would like to stop here for this video so you can pause and practice. If you have any question, you can simply ask in the comment section, and there is any video you want me to make tutorial, if there's any challenge you want me to make tutorial on, please as well do well to let me know in the comment section, and we are definitely going to try that out, and there will be video for it. So see you guys. Meanwhile, if you like this video and you find it helpful, please like and as well subscribe to this channel. I'll be bringing in more informations and more tutorials to help you guys. Thank you.